We understand that it's been a difficult few years. We understand that there's a tremendous amount of worthy moistus that are out there, each and every one of them worthy of tzedakah and of support. What Mayan Yisroel offers our community and our families, however, is something far above and beyond what a simple organization or a shul requires. Each and every one of us who are here tonight have the ability, have benefited from, and will continue to benefit from Mayan Yisroel and from the new programs that the expanded center can bring. Be it from the mikvah, be it from expanded programs for children and for adults, additional space in the women's section, which is obviously very important, the ability to do more and more things for our community and for our families. We're asking you to look on the pledges that you see on the table. There's a list of dedication opportunities, which are perfect opportunities to remember somebody who's passed or to give in the zchus of somebody who's with us. Make Mayan Yisroel a part of your life. Come out, come join us. We're sure we need the financial support, but we're right there on Avenue N. Even the new center is a few hundred feet away. Come join us. Come sit down for a shiur. Come watch the kids learn on a Sunday afternoon who put on a yarmulke once a week. Come see Rabbi Vigler as he stays up till 2 in the morning, then wakes up again at 5:30 in the morning, which is a late day for him. Come see what the passion is that he puts into the center. Come see what his Rebbitzin does on a day-to-day basis. See what the center's about. See what it can do for you and your family as it does for ours. Without his devotion, passion, and dedication, Mayan Yisroel truly would not be what it is today and actually would not be existent at all. It's with tremendous covet and tremendous honor that we call upon Harav Rabbi Vigler, Marda Asor of Mayan Yisroel, to share a few words.
Thank you, Shaya. Your work is appreciated. Great job. It was Erev Shabbos. Lag BaOmer was Sunday. We were under high pressure getting ready for the Lag BaOmer events we were doing on Sunday. And I get a call. The guy says to me, "Can I come speak with you for a few minutes?" I said, "Is it urgent?" He says, "Yes, just a few minutes I need." Short few minutes later, a young man comes in. We went to a private area and he asked me his question. He's a yeshiva bacher. He's learning out of town. He's a real masmid. He loves learning. You'll excuse me, I'm going to change some of the details over here for privacy's sake. I look at the bacher, I eye him out. He looks the part of a real yeshiva bacher. The white shirt, the hat, the jacket. But then he lets out his painful secret. He had some issues with Shmiras Einayim. See, the filters don't necessarily work all the time. And these days, nothing stops. Nothing stops you from looking one way on the outside and being a totally different person on the inside, and the inside might sometimes be rotting away. And he said, he's crying to me, and he said, "I don't know what to do. I really don't want to be doing this. It's not me. And I made a commitment. Over a year ago, I made a commitment. I am not going to do this ever again. I'm not going to engage in that kind of thing ever again." And he said, and the commitment lasted till just recently. And I fell again. And I'm falling deeper and deeper into the abyss with no end in sight. Yeshiva bacher 2 centuries ago could not have imagined the kind of challenges that the yeshiva bacher today faces. So I asked him, I said, "My dear friend, why are you coming to me? I don't know you." And he tells me, he says, "I wanted to ask my rebbeim in yeshiva, but A, I don't feel so comfortable because they know me. I wanted someone who doesn't know me. And B," he says, "I have a connection with them. We learn Gemara. We get a shmooze, but I don't feel connected." And he says, "I was walking around in one of the neighborhood, in one of the shuls, I picked up a Think Hasidus brochure. And I read the brochure. I must tell you, hours and hours of painstaking labor going to every word and how it is written and how it is communicated, and are we bringing the message across in that Think Hasidus pamphlet?" And he says, "I read the pamphlet and my soul felt that I wanted to have a discussion about this. So I came. The truth is, I wanted to tell him, my friend, please come back on Monday after Lag Boimer, because it's really, really busy now, and I really want to discuss it, but there's too much pressure right now. But I paused and I mulled it over and I said to myself, you know what? What is the purpose of making a whole Lag Boimer event, a community barbecue with wonderful entertainers and 3,500 people attending and kids marching in the street drumming? What's the purpose of it all? Entertainment and a pompous affair. The real goal is to be able to reach a bacher in this precise situation and to be able to answer him. So I dropped everything else and I said to him, you know what, my friend, let's have a discussion about this. I recall meeting a good friend, the Chashiv Balabos, and I gave him the whole spiel. I was showing him everything we do in the community, all the events, the programs, the workshops, the productions, you name it. And he looks me in the eye and he says to me, I gotta tell you, I come from a different kind of background. He says, this whole thing does not really impress me. But I'll tell you, he says, why I am talking to you. The reason I'm talking to you, he says, is because I saw you guys have a laning program. You get the kids to learn Chumash and Tanakh. And you have a Mishnayos program with your own kids using the Zilberman method. And you get people to master chunks of Shas. He says, and that impresses me. The Torah impresses me. But here was a bacher sitting all day long in yeshiva. This guy's telling me, he says, that impresses me. Making a marching band in the street, that doesn't impress me. And I said to him, my friend, look at this bacher. This bacher is learning Torah all day long. And evidently that which it says, Barasi Yetzer Hara, Barasi Lo Torah Tavlin, is not working for him, is not somehow connecting. How do we get it to connect? No, I do not for a moment purport, I'm not thinking that what we're going to say is going to be the magical answer and that's it, and that's going to be the magic potion. But here's the message, and listen to this carefully. The question is, how do you completely alter and completely change your view of yourself? That's the message I want to drive home. Back some 300 years ago, the Baal Shem Tov had his own set of challenges. There were groups of Jews over there who were downtrodden, who couldn't learn for whatever reason. For whatever reason it happened with all the persecutions, they weren't able to learn. And these Yidalach were seen as the lowest strata of society. The scholars were admired, the simple folk were nothing. Came the Baal Shem Tov and he says, Rabbi Yid, change the way you view yourself. Look at yourself in a totally different kind of light. You see, he says, you are a chelek elekam imal mamish, a part of God that descended into this world and that has a mission, and that your mission is to overcome all the challenges and difficulties. And the more heartsick, the more passionate, the more neshamadik you are, the more special you are. To the contrary, the question is about the scholars. How did they, despite knowing so much, despite having so much intellect, nonetheless discover the raw beauty that a soul has in order to connect to God? About 100 years ago, there was a Yiddishist poet. I asked some students of mine recently if they knew his name, and I was quite excited to hear that nobody had a clue who he was. His name was Shalom Aleichem. He produced what became a very, very well-known novel. It was about a fellow called Tevye in the shtetl. It later became known as Fiddler on the Roof, many decades later, and still became watched by everyone, read by everyone across the world, by millions. You know what the message over there is? The message is, there's a shtetl Jew who's a traditional Jew clinging on for dear life to tradition. And his first daughter disobeys him ever so slightly. She doesn't ask him about a shidduch. She gets married to a guy without question, without asking him. And he accepts it. What can he do? The second daughter falls in love. That's unheard of. And she goes out with a communist, with a revolutionary. And this is unheard of, but at least he accepts it. And the third daughter goes out and marries out of the faith. And this he cannot accept. And the message sent to Jews across the world was that unthinkable, horrible story is that it's going to break down. Tradition is breaking down. There's no hope for it. Well, they got it wrong. They got it completely wrong. Little did they understand, little did Shalom Aleichem in his time understand that the Yiddishisten are completely gone. Nobody knows who he was, Bichlal. All it requires to be able to update the ways of the Baal Shem Tov, to bring them, to enable a shtetl Jew to walk right into modernity and to be able to get the same exact message as the Baal Shem Tov, is how do I change the way I view myself? In the weekly shir of Rabbi Jacobson, which I highly recommend you attend, a magnificent orator and an amazing way of bringing out Chassidus. This past week he said the following idea. You know, Yosef was about to sin with the wife of Potiphar. He almost succumbed. Here he is, a slave. For many years, for a long time I should say, his brothers sold him, everyone forsook him, his God forsook him, and now finally he has the ability. You know how it is to plunge into depth of addiction, to be able to fall into something which you can lose yourself into. And Ashes Potiphar affords him the opportunity. And Yosef is about to sin. And as he's about to sin, it says, Nir asaloi dmus diyoiknoi shel aviv. He saw the image of his father. But if you analyze carefully in Hasidic Sfarim, they explain the following idea. What does it mean, dmus diyoiknoi shel aviv? A little bit different. Dmus diyoiknoi, his own image. Not that he saw the image of Yaakov, of Jacob, his father. Rather, he saw his own image as Jacob, as Yaakov would see himself. And that's the key. The key is to understand not how you view yourself. Because when you look at yourself, when Yosef looks at himself, what could he think? What am I? I'm a little guy. Everyone left me. Everyone forgot me. Forget it. I'm jumping in. I don't care anymore. Or you could say, for the rest of time, for the rest of history, everyone's going to be speaking about my overcoming my temptation this moment. And that was worth it. It's a cosmic point. You, in everything you do, Rabbi Yid, you have a cosmic purpose because you're a chelek elikami mal mamish descended into this world. And the reason you have the Yetzer Hara is that you can overcome temptations and fight the battle and win the war. If we can merely change the way we look at ourselves. I looked at the Bachar squarely in the eyes and I said to him, my dear friend, I'm going to try draw. I'm going to try draw from everything I can, from everything I know to be able to answer your question. Every morning, we have a Shir Tanya. It's our most populated Shir. For some daily Shir, for some reason, the Shir which goes till 9:30 in the morning, I'm not sure, maybe the guys are unemployed or too employed, I'm not sure, but 9:30, 9:45, the guys are still going every day. And I got to tell you, it's the greatest privilege to sit around discussing with people, discussing Tanya, a manual for life, to really understand and analyze the mission, why we're here, what we're here, so that we can utilize it in our lives, so that we can grow and change. If you haven't learned Tanya, you've got to learn Tanya. I look at this Bachar and I say to him, the answer I'm going to give you, I can tell you in a minute. The answer is change the way you view yourself completely. You're not alone. You're not just a Bachar who has taivas. You're not just a guy out there. You have a mission to overcome. But you know what the problem is? I cannot just tell it to you in one word. It's not that you went to a shir and I heard a good vart and they told it to me. Your mission, my dear friend, is a lot more than could be communicated in one shir. It's a culture that needs to be transformed. You need to have a mashpia. You need to have a rav, what they call a sponsor, someone you talk to, someone you don't only ask shaylas to when you have red or green or yellow. There's different questions. That's also important. But someone who you talk to in Avodas Hashem, someone who you can connect to. You need to reveal your inner personality. You need a chaverim. You need to sit down at a fabreng and experience what it means when a bunch of people are sitting down and talking about God's avodah. And to a child, you need to talk a child language. To my dear friend who thinks who thinks that Torah is all important, but to make a drumming band is not. You remember the story with David HaMelech, King David? He's bringing the Aron to Yerushalayim. And his wife, daughter of Michal, looks at him, eyes him from the window, and she says, "Manichbod hayoim bigolos niglos melech Yisrael ke'achad ha'amoy." He says, "You're playing, you're dancing like a fool. You're dancing in the street with instruments. You're playing music. That's what you're doing." And David HaMelech turns to her and he says, "We need a culture change. We need a total culture change from what your father Shaul HaMelech had to offer. What we need is little kinderlach parading in the streets and saying, 'I am proud to be a Jew,' and I'm drumming it away, and I'm telling the whole world I'm proud to be a Jew, just like they do in America, just like all other revolutions happen. Because if you feel like a revolutionary, if you feel like you're part of a movement, it's a whole lot easier to do what you got to do, and every single one of us is part of a movement part of an army of the Eibishter, part of the army of Hashem, to transform the world, to make it a better place, to make it a totally different kind of situation. And every time you overcome your temptation, you're achieving that. Our goal in making a community center is not merely to have kids doing some woodworking and some production, girls' production, and boys playing music and making floats. Not even about learning how to lane. It's that every single child, bacher who comes to the bacher minyan, adult who's going to come to any one of the shiurim that we have to offer, and we plan to pack the place out with top speakers in this arena who can bring out this message and change every single one of our approach to revolutionize the way we think completely, that we don't succumb to the taivas. And if you think it's unnecessary, well, I have some news for you. What you told your child, one day your child's going to tell his child. You say, "In my day, we didn't have Google glasses, and we didn't have 3D printing where you could just print your taiva right in front of you." If we're marching forward into a new era, we're not just on the defensive. We're going to totally revolutionize the way we think. Every single one of us here in Flatbush and the world over has to completely transform the way he thinks about himself. To realize he's a Yid, to parade his Yiddishkeit, to be able to reveal a totally different side of ourselves so that Torah mitzvahs becomes a part of our very being, a part of who we are. As David HaMelech says, "Unekaloisi oid mizois," I'll disgrace myself even more in order to reach the point that I can transform myself, I give myself over totally to Hashem, that everything I do can bring myself to God. And so this is not just a community center. Everything in the center, all the programs, all the workshops, all the events, have a goal, have a mission to inculcate this idea in every single child. And if you come learn some Chassidus, some Tanya, anything you come learn of this type of Torah will enhance your Gemara learning, will enhance your Chumash learning, will enhance your Torah learning, and enable you to overcome the challenges. My dear Bacher, I told him, what should I tell you? That's the answer. That's what I have to tell you. But really, we need to raise you from when you're born all the way up. Really, we need to inculcate this in every single one of us. We need to help each other to be able to achieve this. And so we need a center to be able to do this in. I gave the Bacher the best Hasidic answer that I could. I sat with him and tried the best I could. But really, it's much more than just saying it in a few words. It requires a total culture change to enhance the way we do ourselves. To change, to be able to think of ourselves like Baal Shemske Yidden. It is a great privilege to be able to stand over here in the presence of Yidden who recognize that idea and who are willing to look deeper inside themselves. And at this groundbreaking moment, last year we stood by and we're looking forward to buying a building. From the bottom of my heart, I'd like to thank all those who reached into their pockets last year, over the course of the year, and entrusted their hard-earned dollars in us to enable us to fulfill this vision. Thank you for not buying just into a building, into a community center, for buying into a vision. to all our founders who donated so generously, and to everybody else participating, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I received the photo of a group of chevra who were up last night till 7 in the morning. This picture was taken at 7 o'clock in the morning. And the group was sitting over there all night long, and I say, wow, that's dedication. That's dedication. And I'd like to thank all of them for tirelessly working on everything over here. I'd like to thank all of you tonight for coming out here to show your support. Thank you so, so much from the bottom of my heart. And most importantly, I cannot end without a special thank you to the one behind it all tonight. To the one person who bought into the vision, to the extent that he made it his life also. To the degree that he worked for 30 hours straight. And on Thursday morning I came, and Friday afternoon, he was right before Shabbos, only Shabbos stopped him. But he went right through the night to be able to achieve this. Thank you to David Stein. Thank you more importantly to David Stein's wife, Chaya, for everything she does. That's the real one behind it all. Thank you to David's father, to Aviv, for running the whole program, for everything he does behind there. I have something to present David with. Come up for 1 second. Special for David. Thank you, David. Appreciate it. And I didn't want to mention Aviv. Thank you so much for nights put into these videos over here, and for putting up with everything over here, and to everybody else who worked so hard. May all our efforts till now be sufficient, that we shouldn't require to build a building, and that we shouldn't need to get all this done in a community center. May the Eibush to help us that just by wanting to do it, just by the ratzon to do so, the revelation of the ultimate level that we're all trying to work for, the revelation of the Geula Amitis V'Ashlema, immediately. Thank you.